Welcome back to the Klein's Comic Corner Classic. That's known classic. This is episode number 1562 and Doubleshot number 1456. Now, I got two DC trades. This first one is like physical and the other one's digital, but I'm also, for this first one, I'm going to discuss the final three issues of this one, because the three issues that come after this are tie-ins to a cross I've already discussed. Alright, we have Red Lanterns Volume 5, which is known as Atrocities. This collects issues 2734 of Red Lanterns, the annual, the first and only annual the series published, Green Lantern 28, which is I think it was Green Lantern Volume 5, I've discussed already, and Supergirl. Yeah, the Supergirl stuff that mostly deals with Green Lantern 28, and it's basically Supergirl's time with the Red Lantern Corps. And we just have basically, like, the first thing that happens in here is that we have Red Lanterns just doing their own thing, and then you have Guy Gardner going back to Earth. Yes, the guy goes back to Earth and tries to rekindle his relationship with the beautiful Ice. Yep, and he brings along two of the Red Lanterns with him just to basically just have them basically walk about and just try to cause trouble, and they run into the Shadow Thief. Yes, the Shadow Thief. And you're thinking, is it Carl Sands they run into? No, it is the female Shadow Thief, who actually, weirdly enough about this woman, is that she very rarely appears in comics. Like, her appearances are so scarce. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And this is not Carl Sands. No, this is Ava Mutia. Of course, they even bring up the fact that her suit that she wears is a California infiltration suit. Excuse me. Yeah, and she made first appearance in the Savage Hawkman toward the end of the series. Mm-hmm. Yep, her first appearance was Savage Hawkman 17, and she was there for like 2 issues of that series, a few issues of Forever Evil, Argus. I mean, she has, I think her last physical appearance was in Red Lanterns 34, which is just after the events of Forever Evil. So yeah, this trade here, well, technically the only thing I haven't discussed here for her is her one-shot, which I think it's been collected once before in a there's an omnibus for Villains Month, but that's the only thing for her I have not covered yet. But yeah, they take her on, and of course Ice traps her, and then as far as I can tell, I don't think she's popped up again. I mean, this issue came out, let's see, that was 2013. I think this was 2014. Yeah, 2014. This was probably her most recent appearance to date. Mm-hmm. We do have the death. We have the appearance of one of the lanterns, but he comes back anyways. No problem. Yes. Shadow Thief briefly appears. And this starts off from the annual for Red Lanterns. Yep. So is Zox. Yeah, he's basically the ball guy. Yep. For him, anyways, I think this may have been his, like, one of his last appearances to date. Yeah. But yeah, the Shadow Thief stuff I thought was really good in here. And they do try to handle the Supergirl stuff really well. And of course, also, we finish up with Atrocities, where pretty much in the way Guy Gardner kind of gets rid of the Red Lantern Corps by pretty much having where he kind of in the way leaves the Red Lantern Corps but still keeps the power of the Red Lantern ring. And of course, while Bleeze and Ronak do their own thing, they do return after this in the very first story arc for Green Lanterns, which that was the most recent appearance to date. As far as I can tell, I pretty much covered. Like, I would probably say, actually no, they did return after this. Yes, they returned in the most recent volume for first issue of the current volume of Green Lantern. But I would probably say for her, I've covered like pretty much like everything for Bleeze, where she's appeared. Like, I would say I've covered for her like post Flashpoint. With this book here, every single appearance she's made, except for the first issue of the current volume of Green Lantern. Mm-hmm. Which was also the most recent time you saw Atrocities in comics. Yeah, that very first issue, because, well, that's kind of the weird thing comes with Red Lanterns. It's almost like there's no plans for these characters at all. No. But in the case of Atrocities himself, well, the only things I have not covered for him yet is Convergence. There's a couple one-shot, DC Earth Holiday Special, Dog Days of Summer. The first two issues, the current volume of Green Lantern, and that's pretty much it. Oh, he also did appear for Omega Man, but yeah. But yeah, there's also here with Superman, which is really nice. It's just overall really fun book. And I give this book a 9.5 out of 10. My final thoughts on the Charles Soule run for Red Lanterns. Because I've recovered the 3 issues that come after this. Yeah, the 3 issues that come right after this, which are the Godhead issues. Mm-hmm. Excuse me. Yes. Yeah, those issues were covered, so Charles Soule's run was just really, really good. Yeah. There we go. But now to discuss the final 3 issues of the series, which are not written by Charles Soule, which you're thinking, really? Charles Soule doesn't write the last 3 issues of a book he was writing? No, they're written by some guy who goes by the name. Come on, seriously? I really hate when it does that. Yeah, this is written by Landry Q. Walker. Yeah, this is a very bad 3-parter. Oh my gosh. It's almost like these 3 issues were never meant to come out at all. I mean, it felt as though if you read 34, that kind of feels like the finale for the series. That's what the way it's written, and of course 35, 37 for like bonus issues. These 3 issues, and I remember the reception these issues got when these issues came out. This was about 7 years ago, that these issues got terrible reception. The reason why, because it's kind of like a very unnecessary horror story in a cosmic series that involves Guy Gardner working with his sister to investigate a series of murders, and he's just happy to be a Red Lantern. That is literally what happens over the course of 3 issues. Now you might be asking, I don't know, do any of the Red Lanterns come in to help him in these final 3 issues? No, he is the only one who does. Yeah, he is the only one who does appear in all 3 of these issues. We have a brief mention of Simon Boz, but yeah, these 3 issues are pretty much like nothing. No, seriously, they are like nothing. It's almost like just remains. Someone theorized that these 3 issues were rejected scripts for Red Lanterns. That these were proposed by somebody else who was not Charles Soule. That the only reason why these issues were published was because of the fact that Soule probably didn't want to do these issues at all. He probably felt as though these issues were completely unnecessary. That with Godhead, he felt as though the series should have ended right there with Godhead. And then these 3 issues were completely unnecessary. And if you read them, yes, you would definitely agree these issues are completely unnecessary. Now you're probably thinking, why were these issues unnecessary? Because they're just so bad. It's almost like these issues were meant to be like at some point published during Charles Soule's run. But Soule probably knew these issues, the stuff for these issues were not written by him. And he probably figured, though, that I've already finished my run. My run was good. So I'm moving on. I'm going to finish my run for Swamp Thing, and I'm ahead of the Marvel. That's probably what he thought, though, because that was something by sheer queer coincidence. As soon as he wrapped up this series and Swamp Thing, he moved up to Marvel, where he's still there today. Because here's kind of the weird thing when it came to when he launched She-Hulk. That was launched probably just after he just wrapped up those runs for those series, because these things are done months in advance. So that's probably when because he figured, though, he's done. He wants to finish this and move on to something else. Yes. But in my case, my final thoughts on the whole entire Red Lantern series. The Peter Mulligan run was interesting at best. Excuse me, yes. Even though his run ended with tie-ins to 2 completely different crossovers, the one trade that came out right after his 2 volumes, excuse me, the one that collected issues from Rise the Third Army and Rise the First Lantern, in my opinion, with those issues, it's up to you if you want to basically decide that trade was necessary. But in the case of what they would get with Lights Out, that was fine. I didn't have a problem with that at all, because I feel like, though, because it continued on from the previous issue. But in the case of the guided issues being collected in the final trade for Red Lanterns, unnecessary. You didn't really need them there. Of course, that final trade also collected features in the issue, which I've already covered already. You could easily have the final trade you could just drop those 3 issues. Just say, if you want to read 35, 37, read Godhead. And then have that last trade, just collect those 3 issues plus the features of the issue, and that's all you had to do. Maybe kind of a shorter trade, but that's the best way. That's the best solution I would have had with it. Yeah. But was Red Lantern a sample series? No, which is very violent, per se. Yep, but it's weird, though. Like, as soon as the series wrapped up, we had one more thing, Red Lanterns, after this, which came out, like, 2 years after this thing wrapped up. Yeah, like, actually, it was, like, about a year and a half after this series wrapped up. We had the first story of Green Lanterns deal with Red Lanterns, which resulted in nothing. And, of course, they kind of brought back the group in the first 2 issues of the current volume for Green Lantern. But that's it for the group itself. Alright, moving on to something else. We have Tales of the Batman by J.H. Williams III. Yep. Now, this trade is quite lengthy, given what's in here. We have Batman 526, 550, and the 21st Annual, all drawn by J.H. Williams III. We also have Legend Dark Knight 86 to 88 and 192 through 196. It's a 6-parter. Actually, it's a 5-parter known as Snow. They also throw in 2 issues of the series Chase, which is the short-lived spin-off book for the character Cameron Chase. Yeah, this actually was their ongoing series that probably got canceled due to low sales. And they even included in this here the appearance of the character from Batman 550, which also debuted a short-lived character. Now, in the case of 526, this issue is just a quick standalone issue with... The best way to describe what happens in this issue is you just have Batman just attacking people, and it's mostly an issue focused on Alfred the whole issue, with flashback to death of Jason Todd, but mostly it's an issue told from Alfred's perspective. Well, you have Batman beating up some thugs with Robin, but that's pretty much the issue itself. Conspiracy. This is a three-parter. Of course, Doug Moak writes this one. Now, Doug Moak, he writes a certain number of things in here. Now, J.H. Williams is the artist for these issues, yes. Now, the writing for these issues are quite interesting. Now, 526, that's about Doug Moak. The conspiracy part, also by Doug Moak. And I don't think Batman Annual is done by him either. I don't think it is. Nope. A three-part conspiracy. This is simply put, of course, like I said, it's a Doug Moak story. This feels like a Batman story. Definitely. A lot more than 526 ever did. Mm-hmm. It's mostly a story where you have, get this, you have Batman finding the Calendar Man and Hitman. Yep, Hitman shows up for appearance in this thing. Yep. But this is actually a pretty good three-parter. I at least gotta hand it to J.H. Williams. It's really good. Mm-hmm. Yep. And then right after this we have... Yeah, it's always really cool whenever he fights Calendar Man. Mm-hmm. Come on, seriously. Now, Snow is an early appearance of... Now, in case you're curious still about the 5-part Snow, it is, simply put, an early appearance of... It's kind of considered them in a way to be the very first meeting of Batman and... It was first time Batman met Mr. Freeze. That's the simple put. What's the whole point of this 5-parter? The annual, of course, Annual 21, is another one of these Pulp Hero annuals. Mm-hmm. Which is another one done by Doug Moak. And I love the cover for this thing. I think this is done by Brian Star Fleas, this is cover. And typical for Pulp Heroes, we have a classic title on the cover, which is called The Spence Detective. And it's a long annual. Just a typical pulp story that just happened to star Batman. Also has like the chaos in Chinatown. It's a really good annual. Mm-hmm. Now what happens after this one, after the annual finishes up here. Mm-hmm. Let's see. After the annual... Oh my gosh, seriously. Okay, here we go. After the annual, it is basically onto Batman 550, which this is the first appearance of Cameron Chase and the D.E.O. We also have Clayface Third pop up in this issue here. And we have a one-shot appearance of a brief person who assumed the name of Clayface, even though it's referred as Clay Thing. The whole point of this issue is just that it's just a backdoor pilot to the Chase series. And they threw in a couple issues of the Chase series in here, which are basically drawn by J.H. Williams III. He just basically co-wrote the whole series. All 11 issues and a 1/1,000th issue. And what's the whole point of this two-parter? It's a guest appearance by Batman. That's the best way to describe it. Now, I've already discussed, just briefly discussed the Snow. We also have Detective Comics A20, which I have previously discussed this one. I think it was like Brian Casebook, I think it was. And mostly put just afterwards, we just have some stories on like Grant Morrison, which is part of the Batman RIP stuff. But yeah, that's the thing with the last 4 issues. I've already discussed these already, thanks to reviewing a couple different trades. But this stuff in here is really, really good. I do recommend checking out this trade because it's just so good to read this classic stuff for Batman. I always love reading. Now, in the case of the Batman spin-off books, one book I always thoroughly enjoy reading, like bench reading anyways, is Legends of Dark Knight because it's focused on Batman's past. Excuse me. Now, here's something about just some weird coincidence when it came to Legends of Dark Knight. After 196 came out, the series managed to have at least 18 more issues to come out before the series concluded with issue 214. Yep. Which is not in here, by the way. Yeah, it's interesting that we have a 5-parter A lot of the time, Legends of Dark Knight didn't have 5-parters. If you look at like a lot of the story arcs that happened in the series, usually like when the series started, it was some 5-parters. As a matter of fact, the first 20 issues were basically 4 5-parters. We're switching over to a 4-part format and a crossover called Destroyer, which was really good. Yeah, some of the stories are just really quick stories, and unlike, let's say, Shadow the Bat or any other Bat books published at this point, would have a stable writer, not Legends of Dark Knight. Every time a story finishes, we have a brand new writer. For this series, it worked because it's called Legends of Dark Knight. You have a writers come in. Sometimes you have repeat writers come in, where they come in to do the story arc here and there. But it's mostly just tales of Batman's past. That's the best way to describe it. Yep. So, I give this trade a 10 out of 10. It's just really, really good. Okay, so that's it for Second Review. Stay tuned for my next review, which will be more Super Sentai. Okay, that's the video. Bye.